The emergency distribution of a COVID vaccine is happening as we speak, and there are a whole lot of questions people are asking about it. So we're getting answers right now from the Dean of Brown University's School of Public Health, Dr. J, as I like to refer to him. Dr. J, welcome back to The View. So my first question to you is, the Pfizer vaccine got its emergency use authorization late Friday night, and vaccinations have begun for healthcare workers. Is this finally light at the end of the tunnel, or should we be concerned that there's something else waiting in the wings to fall?
So, Whoopi, first of all, thank you for having me on. This is light at the end of the tunnel. This is the beginning of the end of this pandemic. We can't let our guard down. The next 6 to 8 weeks are going to remain really tough. But this is how this pandemic comes to an end. Once these vaccines are out and majority of Americans take it, life will get meaningfully better.
Now, this vaccine is taken in 2 parts, 3 weeks apart. Do you worry that because this is given in 2 shots, people might not go back for the second? And is the vaccine effective if only 1 part is given?
Yeah, it's a great question. So first of all, people really need both parts of the vaccine. I think that part is very clear at this point. We think there is some benefit of the first dose. It kicks in after about a week. But the problem is, if you want longer term benefit, you got to go back for that second shot. So we think that you might get 80% benefit potentially for a little bit of time after 1 dose, but then that'll wane and you'll become vulnerable again. So it's really important that people get both shots of the vaccine.
Now, once you get the vaccine, you said, I wanted to ask how quickly you're protected. You mentioned about a week. And does the vaccine actually prevent spread of the disease?
Yeah, we don't know actually whether the vaccine prevents spread. We think it probably does. We're still looking at the data. We know it protects you from getting infected, about 95% effective if you get both doses. The big question is, can you still spread it to others? I suspect you're much less likely, but we don't know for sure.
Okay.
So, Dr. Jha, give us a reality check on when the average person, not the frontliners, not the morbidity group, can go back, can really see a change in their life. How quickly can you vaccinate an entire country also?
Yeah, it's a great question. Look, I think the average person probably late March to April, if everything goes well, vaccines will start becoming available for that group. Until then, it's going to be first responders, healthcare workers, high-risk people. But I'm hoping, especially if we get new vaccines coming online, that by the time we're into April, certainly by May, most Americans will be able to get the vaccine.
That's great.
Wow. Well, doctor, it seems to me that there are a lot of logistical hurdles to get past in distributing the vaccine. It has to be stored at a sub-zero temperature. It only has a shelf life of 5 days with hospital refrigeration, and it's shipping in the middle of the holidays. How confident are you that this administration has a solid plan for distribution and that it will be distributed equitably in communities that have been hit particularly hard?
Yeah, it's
that
a really important
point. The wealthy won't jump to the front of the line.
Yeah, I think there are 2 parts of that. First, just on the sheer logistics, it is complicated. I think they've got a good plan in place right now to make sure the vaccines arrive, and they arrive in a way that, the vaccines are still in good shape. So I'm pretty confident of that. And the Moderna vaccine, which I expect to get authorized a week from now, is a little bit easier. It doesn't have to have the same storage issues. So I think that makes it better. To the second part of your question around equitable distribution and not having people jump in line, I am worried about this. I think we've got to make sure that communities that have been hit the hardest, communities of color, are absolutely not left behind. I think that's doable, but that doesn't just happen naturally, right? Like, we got to pay attention to that. And I hope this administration does it. And then if not this administration, certainly we're going to need to make sure the Biden administration does that.
And to that point, I think it's part of the reason why Javier Becerra got appointed to HHS, and I hope it's something that he focuses on. And I think the things that happened today, doctor, like we saw the first critical care nurse getting her shot, and it was an African American in New York. I think those things go a long way. But accessibility aside, we know that there's a significant amount of Black and Latino Americans who've said they're not planning on taking this vaccine, even though we are the communities that have been the hardest hit by COVID. So what exactly do you think doctors and government can do to address these concerns about safety of vaccines?
Yeah, so the concerns about safety, right, are really part of a history of issues of trust in especially the Black community in America, where the treatment of Black Americans has not been always done in a way that is ethical. And so there's a long history here that people are relying on. And I understand it, and I'm very sympathetic to it. I think what we need to do as public health people, as government, is engage leaders in those communities. This is not something that's just going to come from Washington that you should get vaccinated and people do it. We've got to talk to members of the community, understand their concerns, and then address them. And as I said, engaging leaders in Black and Latino communities is going to be pretty central to this.
All right, let's talk about the kids for a minute, because we know that kids do spread this disease and are most often asymptomatic. So when will parents be able to vaccinate their children?
Yeah, so the current one, the Pfizer vaccine, has been authorized for people 16 and older, so 16 and 17-year-olds, kind of older children as well. We just don't have a lot of data on younger kids under 16. So what's happening now is Pfizer and Moderna and others have made commitments to study this in children. I think we'll have those data in the next couple of months, next few months. Given that kids are a bit lower risk, we don't have to, they're not going to be the front of the line. And so what I expect in my own family, I have 3 children. I expect they'll all get vaccinated probably later in the spring once we have more data on kids. I have every reason to think these vaccines are going to be safe in kids, but I'd love to see the data.
Okay. Okay, so the UK rollout saw some allergic reactions that have a lot of people worried. So my question is, which allergies are a problem? Is it food allergies? Is it pollen? I mean, I'm allergic to dust and dust mites, and also I'm always sneezing, but I don't have food allergies. So is that this? What's the difference? Tell me.
Yeah, so we don't know, Joy. And like, I have really bad seasonal allergies. Like in the spring and in the fall, I get pretty miserable for a couple of months each time. I'm not worried about it for me. I think what I would say to folks is, if you have a history of severe allergic reactions, you've had anaphylaxis, anaphylactoid reactions, then you want to be a bit more careful. If you're not somebody who's had those kind of life-threatening allergic reactions, then there's no contraindication. The FDA is saying you can move forward, and I would feel comfortable. It's just for people who've had life-threatening reactions in the past, hold off until we sort out exactly what's causing the allergy.